David Schwartz admits that they should have focused on smart contracts a little bit sooner. And what are the plans going forward for Ripple XRP and the XRP ledger and smart contract functionality? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you a complete update and overview. We also have some new things happening in the UK with crypto and taxes and moving forward. What could that mean globally? We also have some information about CME halting trading because of some old infrastructure updates. I wanted to take a look at what CME is doing to upgrade to blockchain technology. I have that information as well. Plus, we're going to talk about supply shock and a few other things for the XRP community. I did want to say it is Black Friday. There are all kinds of sales out there. If you need a custody wallet, I have Decent and Ledger links below. This is the best sale that I've ever seen either company have all year. So if now's the time to upgrade your old wallet to a new wallet, probably to get the best deal is right now. Ledger sent me all of their latest technology and new wallets. I've been diving in. I'm very impressed with what they've been working on. Of course, Decent does have a lot of value too with their biometrics. I'll leave the information below. Let's just get into the video.
I do think Ripple probably should have prioritized smart contracts at layer 1 sooner. We didn't. We were more skeptical, and I think the big thing that we missed was that small steps would be useful. That we didn't have to be the best platform for smart contracts, and people would still be able to use those smart contracts both to distinguish their features, implement their business logic, and to tie existing features together. You know, an AMM is great, but if it's not connected to anything else, it's not as great. It's nice to be able to sort of connect things together with business logic, distinguish functions, you know, because today developers, if they want to build in the XRP ledger space, they either have to build XRP ledger features, which has a massive barrier to entry, and then, you know, get them accepted by amendment, which is, you know, extremely difficult. And it has to be something with mass appeal, or basically all they can build are wallets and user interfaces. Now, wallets and user interfaces are important, but it's hard to build a business around a wallet or a user interface. And if you can distinguish your actual financial products on chain, that makes it, you know, a much better experience and a much better platform for them to develop on.
You know, the conspiracy side of my brain, because obviously I dissect a lot of news and information, and some of it's based on reality and most of it's based on speculation. But the speculation side that's singing to me right now is, do you think Ripple specifically didn't want to focus on smart contract functionality early on because they weren't aiming the XRP ledger in general and XRP at retail, you know, developers and traders and things like that? They were really pushing for institutions. Think about it, right? What is the best way to not have any attention on your chain? Well, don't have smart contract functionality. Don't have developers coming in and building. I mean, this is just randomness in my head, but I thought I would just share it with you. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Why did they hold off for so long? Was it just not a priority? Was there something more, you know, out there? Let me know. Okay. And so just so you know where we are right now with smart contract deployment on the XRP ledger, it's rapidly advancing in both native and EVM compatible solutions now available. Native smart contracts are currently in the AlphaNet testing phase, allowing developers to experiment with multi-language support on-chain ABIs, but yet they are not live yet on the mainnet. So they're still here on this test net. It's called AlphaNet, and they are testing them to hopefully launch them in the Q1 of 2026. And so this could be helpful to bring in all kinds of different things. I mean, think about all the projects that are built out on Ethereum. Some of them, you know, are you know, multi-billion-dollar projects, and some of them are already gone from last season, right? But the more building, the more development, the more XRP that's going to be needed. This is all very important for the future of the XRP community. We need liquidity to come in, and part of that is having the right projects at the right time, and of course the right names and the brands, right? Because that's, I mean, just as important. So here's the status on the EVM sidechain, because we saw this launch on June 30th, 2025, bringing full Ethereum virtual machine compatibility to the XRP ecosystem. Developers can now deploy Ethereum-based dApps and smart contracts directly on the XRPL EVM sidechain, leveraging familiar tools like Solidity. The sidechain operates as a parallel blockchain connected to the XRPL mainnet via the Axelar bridge, allowing seamless asset movement between chains. The ecosystem is growing with projects like Strobe Finance, Vertex Protocol, and Secure Labs already building on the sidechain. Total value locked around $120 million. And then of course we did talk to you about native smart contracts. We should have more information Q1 2026. I will bring you everything that I have as soon as I have it. So R3 did post this. It says, by exploring a no gain, no loss treatment for DeFi, the UK is addressing one of the key barriers for institutional participation in on-chain markets, removing artificial disposals at every smart contract interaction allows liquidity mechanisms to operate more smoothly and predictability. It's a kind of structural clarity needed for tokenized markets to mature. So this actually looks like it could be a very good thing. And here is the press release. We are pleased to see that the UK government published its latest update on the taxation of crypto asset loans and liquidity pools, and to see the HMRC continue to develop a no gain, no loss approach that better reflects the economic reality of these transactions. This direction of travel is an encouraging outcome for our community and a clear example of the constructive impact and the industry and engagement can have in policy making. Since the government, launched its original call for evidence in 2022, followed by the 2023 consultation, Crypto UK and our members have consistently highlighted the need for a tax framework that is workable, predictable, and aligned with how these arrangements actually operate. The government's own summary confirms that stakeholders unanimously supported the review, calling for rules that reduce disproportionate administrative burdens, reflect economic substance, and remain flexible enough to adopt to the evolving market. It says we are proud to have contributed in this process alongside leading organizations and all of that jazz. And so the reason this is important, obviously, is to create a legal framework. Every country that is rolling out crypto adoption legislation, they need a good tax policy to go with that, right? Because if some stuff doesn't make sense, you're not going to have people coming and building in that country and deploying it. So, you love to see this. I will keep you updated as we get more into this. Why this matters specifically for XRP. XRP and the XRP ledger can host DeFi-like structures, liquidity pools, lending, tokenized money markets, and RLUSD, etc. The UKNL regime means UK users and institutions could do more with this activity, with XRP pairs without on-chain operation being a CGT event. As tokenized and institutional DeFi build out, clear UK tax rules lower the barrier for using XRP as a bridge or liquidity asset in UK domiciled structures, exchanges, money market funds, tokenized repos, and cross-border payment flows that park liquidity in pools between legs. So this could have a tremendous impact on the XRP ledger. All right, guys, let's keep it going here. I did think this was interesting. Something huge is happening and nobody is connecting the dots. CME halts trading the moment physical silver stress shows up. Then at the exact same moment, banks quietly yank 24.4 billion from the Fed's standing repo window. Banks scramble for emergency liquidity. Technical issues suddenly becomes the universal excuse. Markets freeze when they can't meet the real world deliverability. And this happens on a half-day Friday with no month-end pressure, and people still think a digital asset designed to settle trillions instantly won't face the same pressure. When institutions finally move into real-world DLT rails, XRP will face similar liquidity shocks. When banks, these liquidity hubs, and FX desks suddenly need XRP for settlement, you'll see the glitches. You'll see the exchanges run out of supply. You'll know exactly what happened. Liquidity vanished. Demand surged. The old system couldn't keep up with DLT migration, just like silver, just like CME, just like every other market before a major structural reset. XRP won't pump. It will evaporate from exchanges. And you are seeing that. I did a video earlier today that was already out this morning that I get into this in detail, kind of how much XRP is still left on exchanges, what's going on with the OTC desk, what happens once the OTC desks run out of XRP, where can they go get it? I mean, I spent a good 18, 19 minutes on that video giving you everything. So if you haven't gone to watch that video, please, if you want to learn about XRP supply, that is where you should go take a look at. Now, I wanted to better understand, like, CME's infrastructure is halting. Like they blamed it on servers. Like the servers were getting too hot, right? Silver is exploding. The servers are going to blow up. We got to turn it off. That's not a working system, right? Even so, excuse or not excuse, like maybe they're using the servers getting too hot as an excuse to shut down trading on some of this stuff, but maybe there's a real problem. Like we don't know, but regardless, both of those situations are not good. And so you start to wonder, what is CME Group doing to upgrade its infrastructure? CME Group is not replacing its core clearinghouse with on-chain settlement today, but it is actively piloting blockchain-based tokenization and payment rails alongside of its existing infrastructure. Okay, here we go. CME trades are preliminary, cleared, and settled by CME Clearing, the CCP owned by the CME Group, while the DTCC handles related cash money market activity and offers cross-margining rather than acting as the main clear for CME. I was wondering if the DTCC had anything to do with the CME clearing. That's why it's giving that to me. But CME on blockchain settlement, CME Group is working with Google's Cloud Universal Ledger, a permission distributed ledger, to tokenize assets and support wholesale payments, including use cases like collateral margin settlement and fee payments. The current effort is in a pilot phase with plans to test the market participants, potentially launch tokenized related services around 2026. So you're seeing a lot of things happening in 2026. I would imagine 2026 will be the year to remember for XRP holders. 2025, we had some friends over yesterday for Thanksgiving. And my friend's working at a job that, he's very stressed out and he was kind of telling me all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh, what are your plans? Like, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I have some, some stock market and this and this." And he was telling me that he had some money in the stock market and it's been there for 5 years and it hasn't done anything. And I was like, all right, well, and he was in crypto last year, but he kind of did some and then he got out. And I was like, "Well, do you have any XRP? What is your plan? Solana, anything?" And no XRP. And I said, "Dude, like, what are you doing? You have this money sitting in the account, hasn't grown, it's gone up, it's gone down, it's just there. Why don't you put that money to use, right? Like, you are running out of time." And we had a serious conversation. Within that 30-minute conversation, he was buying XRP, man. You sit down next to me, I am going to give you all the information that you need to know. But I think he made a good decision here. You got to have some risk. We know that the financial market infrastructure around the world is changing rapidly, and it is moving to blockchain. And there are only so many key players at the top of this mountain, right? You'll see Solana, you'll see Circle, you'll see Ripple and Coinbase and several other companies, Stellar and whatever. But those are that is the new infrastructure. And if you don't have any of those assets, the risk, I was like, what are your plans for retirement? Are you just going to work until you're 60 or 70 years old? It's got him thinking about all of this stuff. And so I think everybody should just take a step back and just think about we get one shot at this, right? We don't know when it's going to happen, but we do know there's a lot of pressures now coming in across a whole different host of things happening with the XRP ledger, whether it's ETFs, EVM sidechains, AMMs, what's going on with Ripple and their institutional partnerships with G Treasury, Ripple, people are paying attention finally. You get that regulation piece and you have every Fortune 500 or top 1,000 company, or even the smaller mom and pop shops, everybody's going to have a crypto wallet. Everybody's going to have a crypto strategy. Everybody's going to need XRP and Ethereum and Solana. There's only so much left, right? It's not like an infinite supply with Ethereum where you can just keep making more, right? Or even Solana, I think, has a pretty crazy supply too. XRP, we know, is 100 billion units. We know where most of those units are, and those units are being depleted at levels not seen before on exchanges. Usually when you have the futures markets exploding and you have the available liquid supply of XRP being depleted off exchanges, only one of two things is about to happen, right? And we're ready for it. We're prepared. I feel confident to say that I have prepared you for what's to come. More than 99.9% of the planet. And that has been my goal the entire time with this channel. I feel like you showing up every day and taking the time to learn is just truly incredible. So please pat yourself on the back. I know maybe sometimes you're taking time away from friends or family, but you are setting up your future here, and it's going to be really important. And you're going to be able to gain a lot of that time back with your family and friends. And just know that, we make a little sacrifice now so we can live like we want to live here in the future. And that's what I truly believe. All right. Subject views 300 million XRP in diamond hands. Binance's XRP reserves have fallen to about 2.7 billion, one of the lowest levels ever. As steady outflows show investors pulling tokens off the exchange. Binance, the largest exchange in the world, is now starting to run out of XRP. What? You don't say. There's more ETFs coming? No way. There's over $600 million invested into XRP through this institutional in just 2 weeks. We're tracking over $1 billion in the first month. BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, all of these institutions are probably going to enter this space one way or another. You get an announcement like that, XRP's price is not going to be $2, just clearly. You have the ETFs, you have the, the chance of an announcement, you have maybe the next Ripple acquisition or whatever they're doing. But once this buying starts happening with G Treasury and all of the stuff that they plan to do, all of these companies that are connected to G Treasury they now have a one up on all of their competitors. And I talk about this a lot because I think it's a point that a lot of people miss. The entire world is now rushing to adopt the technology. That's it. All right. Ripple needed the entire institutional stack before any global settlement system could ever run on open market XRP, not hype, the actual foundations, custody, banking rails, compliance, liquidity routes, treasury integration, enterprise wallets, payment networks, prime broker execution. Here's the question. What happens now that they finally have it? Medico and standard custody for regulated asset storage, Fortress Trust for licensing, Trangolo for global payments, Rail and banking for stablecoin rails, G Treasury for corporate treasuries, Hidden Road for institutional liquidity, Palisade for enterprise grade wallets. Layer on top of Liquidity Hub, RLUSD, XRPL, AMMs, and Ripple Net Payments 2.0, the full machine is now assembled. So ask yourself, why would a company build all this infrastructure out if the plan was to keep running a tiny private corridors? Why acquire prime brokers, treasury systems, custodians, and global payout networks if they're not preparing for something much bigger? Why build the open market stack unless the open market is the next phase? The final step is exactly that, shifting institutions off Ripple's controlled rails and onto open market XRP liquidity, where banks, treasuries, corporates, fintechs, and ETFs source XRP themselves directly from exchanges, AMMs, custodians, and prime brokers for real settlement. The infrastructure is finished. If every component is in position, if the entire system is now complete, what comes next? And more importantly, what happens once it activates? Woo-hoo-hoo. I don't know. I think I should just end it there. That was pretty good. No, you know what? We're going to do the Rosie Rios clip. Rosie Rios is the former treasurer of the United States. After she left the treasury, she went to work with Ripple. Interesting, right?
You know, crypto has been in the news time and time again, and I just want to share that I am on the board of Ripple. Ripple is XRP. And so when people ask me the question, why did you join the board of Ripple? I joined the board of Ripple because XRP serves a purpose. It's a function that facilitates cross-border payments. It's not some store of value, kind of arbitrary value that is not pegged to anything. This is actually what legitimate financial institutions use specifically for cross-border payments. So instead of days and dollars, it's seconds and cents. And that is the future, in my opinion.
She has a very valuable opinion since she was in charge of the United States Treasury Department. It's basically what Scott Bessent is doing now. It is what he's doing now. All right, I'll leave it there with you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can like, you can share, you can leave a comment down below. Just thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time.